time.
We were off the air. We were talking about my health issues, and I like that you think so much of me. You said, "Well, when you die, can I have your golf clubs?"
Well, I did, but that's if you play golf with our group, then that's a normal thing. If you go down, then we'd be more than happy to take over your
Well, I'll
equipment.
tell you that Falcone and Beck would tell you the clubs are covered in COVID. You don't want them.
I don't have an answer for what Falcone and Beck say.
John, yesterday was a very historic election. 4 seats on city council, 3 through the regular election process, 1 through a special election, and the mayoral race. Still could, if Jay Musley, the incumbent, loses, all 4 seats could change. That's unheard of.
Well, of course it's unheard of because we have an extra person running this cycle. But yeah, that's. Oof.
Iri Bethea, if Jay Musley doesn't win the runoff, Iri Bethea with a year experience is the senior council person.
Yes, but you also have Jim Hilty coming back on board. So,
yes.
I mean, there is some.
Were you surprised by that, by the way, that Jim Hilty gets in the race 8 weeks before election, running against a guy that had been running for 18 months, and Jim Hilty wins? Very close race, but he still won by a full percentage point.
No, I mean, a lot of name recognition there for Jim. Jim's a good guy. He's basically, I don't think he's ever done anything to upset anybody too much. And
has he done much to excite anybody either, though?
Well, he didn't do a bad job with his own council. I mean, he had his own views on things, but as a former council member that served with him, we didn't agree all the time, but at least I understood where he's coming from. He has good sense.
One of the incumbents that was up for re-election, Brent Molliver, loses soundly to Barry Mansfield. I thought that was going to happen. I thought that Brent did a great job as a councilman while he was there, but I thought his time had passed.
Yeah, I would agree with that sentiment. And the thing is with Brent the last few years, and he's a great guy, and I think the world of him, but there were too many decisions where he would go back and forth on.
Yes.
In other words, yes, no, well, let me look at it again. People may not like the way you vote.
They want a yes or no. They don't want wishy-washy.
They don't want wishy-washy, and I don't think we need wishy-washy in the city of Ocala.
A lot of people are saying that if Jay Musley loses, that there's going to be an issue with support for the city manager. Do you think in any way that should even be brought up?
I'm not sure that's the case either way. I mean, you can't. I just don't see that happening. First of all, somebody's got to propose that they, one of the council members has proposed that they get rid of the city manager to begin with.
Right.
And who's going to do that? What's going to be the reasoning at this point? What the other thing, with the fire chief is gone.
Well, I've heard.
You don't have
I've heard people have said that they're going to say, we just want to start over fresh as a new council.
Well, that would be all the reason they need.
That would be it. You don't need any other reason. That's the thing. You don't need any other reason.
The last time I was on your show is after Chief Alexander had been fired, and it was somewhat within her scope. I mean, the procedural process, the way she did things, was probably a little off, and then may cost the city in the long run. But it's within her scope. But it's also within the scope of the city council to let her go also.
It's a will hire
or
state,
not retain
as everybody reminded, or not retain her.
Or not retain her.
Right.
I mean,
Because her contract's
there's a
up.
difference.
Her contract's up.
When is that? Is it November?
November, I think.
So will it be before or after the election?
The election's the first Tuesday, so I don't know. I'd have to check that to see exactly when her contract's up. But there is a chance they don't retain her if the new council's sacked by that point.
Absolutely, yeah.
Did you see any surprise? And I'll tell you the thing I saw as a surprise is I thought the mayor race would be a lot closer. I thought Manal had done a lot. Dr. Fakori had done a lot to get the base of people who believed in what she was talking about, that she had energized them enough where they would come out and vote. And they did in the early voting. Where she got trounced was in voting the day of voting. Mm-hmm. Early voting was 50-50. They were right there, tied, neck and neck. She got trounced at the polling booths yesterday.
Well, it actually doesn't surprise me. Ocala is still a fairly conservative area, and Dr. Fricori is, she by all outwards, she seems a fairly nice person, but some of her ties are a little extreme.
Some of her thoughts on, to me, to me, if I was voting, and I didn't vote, I don't live in the city. To me, Dr. Fricori, her ties, where she got her money from, that didn't. While I understand why people were concerned with that, what concerned me was her stance on that there needed to be a citizens advisory board to oversee the police department. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's micromanaging. I didn't see a need for micromanagement. Mm-hmm. We are like the incumbent mayor and the winner said Kent Gwynn. We already have that. It's called internal affairs. Mm-hmm. The fact that she thought that the police were too militarized and they needed to soften their image. When I call 911, I don't want a soft image. I want John Wayne and the cavalry coming in like she wore a yellow ribbon, coming in. I need that. I don't want a cop and a social worker showing up on my doorstep if I call 911. I want cops. Maybe I'll need the social worker later if there's a death or something like that. But when I call 911 and I need the police, I don't want a social worker. I want the police. Yeah. So that's where my problems with Dr. Fricori was in what she thought was the avenue that maybe the police department should take, and the fact that she kept saying that there was a divisive problem in our community and we needed to unify. That's not my experience. I went with my business partner, Brendan Martin. I went and we filmed the Black Lives Matter rallies that took place in downtown Ocala and that marched down State Road 40 to the Martin Luther King Sports Complex. I was there. I marched. I walked. I filmed it all. I saw that they were working hand in hand with the police department. Greg Graham spoke at the Black Lives Matter rally about how he was glad that we could have this kind of peaceful display, and that's what made Ocala great. And the leaders of the African American community were applauding him for what he said. I did not see a unity problem. That was one of the things she kept pushing, that there was no unity, that we were fractured. The country may be fractured. Our little part of the world is in pretty good shape, in my opinion.
I would agree with you. I think Chief Balkin and the whole department and the mayor, they've done a fantastic job during this last 2 years. And
when it's been an all-out war on police nationwide.
Oh, yeah. And just ride in a car with them one night and you'll understand, because their job is impossible to do. And we don't need a citizens advisory committee overlooking them. You're right. We do have internal affairs. We have a mayor. We have a civilian elected head of the police department. That's the point of the mayor, who they answer to him.
But he answers to council.
And he answers to council because council holds the purse strings.
Yeah, people forget. The mayor can't fire, like Sandra Wilson could fire the fire chief, and she can fire head of OEU. Mm-hmm. The mayor can't fire the police chief. He can suspend the police chief. He can suggest to council that the police chief not be retained. Mm-hmm. But that's the 5 council members' decision to retain the police chief. And that's the one thing, all this charter stuff they talked about, changing the pronouns and all, the one thing I want changed on the charter, and I don't know if we can even do it, I think the police chief, the fire chief, and the head of OEU should all be under Sandra Wilson and the mayor, should all be positions that could be suspended by the mayor and Sandra, but they can't be fired without a act of the 5 council members. I think those 3 positions are important enough that they should not be, one person should not be able to make the decision to fire them. It should be something that suspend and take to council, and council makes that ultimate decision. Right now, that's how it is with the police chief. It's not that way with the fire chief and the head of OEU.
Yeah, I think that's a problem, and it probably is one of the few things in the charter that I think needs to be addressed. For the most part, the charter served us well for a long time. We
Yes.
don't need to make too many changes to it.
No. So I was kind of I want to ask your opinion on this. So Barbara Fitos 2 years ago ran against the mayor, lost convincingly. This year, Manal Fakori runs against the mayor. Barbara Fitos runs in a District 4, which you know quite a bit about District 4. You represented the district. You represented District 4 when you were on council. So Barbara Fitos runs. Her ideology and Dr. Fakori's ideology very closely related, in my opinion. They both lost, and excuse me, Dr. Fakori lost convincingly. Barbara Fitos third in a district that only gets 2 people in the runoff. What message does that send for the city of Ocala and its voters to the message of community policing, nicer, softer way to do things, unity? So, is that a message that is falling on deaf ears? Is that what this election showed?
I don't know if it fell on deaf ears. I still think, as I said earlier in the conversation, that this is still a fairly conservative community, and it has always voted conservative.
Always.
I mean, you look at our county commissioners, you look at our representatives, they're always conservative people. Now, you can be a conservative Democrat, or you can be a liberal Republican.
100%.
But this area is always, for the most part, voted fairly conservative.
I get blamed for being a liberal Republican all the time because I like small government, but I still believe we have a duty as a people to help people that are trying to help themselves that can't make it very well. People go, well, Tom, that means subsidizing through social acts. Yeah, that's exactly what it means. That's what we're supposed to do. I don't believe in giving free money, but I do believe in if somebody's busting their hump and coming up a little short, I believe we're supposed to help them.
I am staunchly in favor of helping people
who are trying to help themselves.
Yes, and you know, not everybody's. I don't want to. I'm trying to say this in a very good way. Not everybody's got the same bounce of the ball in life, you know.
No.
And
not everybody got the same breaks.
And when you're down and out, I think it is our obligation to help people. Now, I'm a conservative.
Yes.
And I've said that many times on this show, but that doesn't mean you don't help people.
No, that's not. Nowhere in the conservative rule book does it say we're supposed to stop helping people just to be conservative.
I like to help the people that live in this country and the citizens that live in this country before we start helping everyone else.
Well,
for some reason, we try to help everybody else.
And you and I agree with this. We think that the best way to help is through private help, not through the government giving help.
Oh, no. There's, yeah.
Tax dollars are supposed to go towards infrastructure and stuff, safety of the police and everything. Mm-hmm. If I want to help, I'll give to the United Way. I'll give to Vets Helping Vets. I'll see a homeless person that I know is truly homeless and needs a helping hand. I'll buy that person dinner. That's different. I don't believe government should ever be involved in giving people money just to help them, because that's how I'll say it and people tell me that I'm wrong and it's racist and everything. The welfare system, the way it's set up in this country, is the same thing to me as the chains and shackles of slavery from the 1800s, because it makes a group of people dependent on someone for their livelihood. 1860s, it was slave owners. The slaves were dependent. That's where they got their food from, everything. Now, a lot of people in the welfare system are dependent on the government and for certain people to stay in control of the government so that those things don't get rolled back. And say what you want, to me, that's institutionalized slavery, when you make people dependent on you and they have to do the things you want them to do for their survival. And that's why I have a problem with the welfare system. That's why I don't think government should ever be involved with the welfare of people that way. That should be stuff that is done by people like Carla Grimsley at Interfaith, Brothers Keepers. It should be done through the United Way, Vets Helping Vets. There's all kind of. I learned yesterday, 2 days ago, talking about Give for Marion. 2,600 nonprofits registered in Marion County. I think there's ample opportunity to help anybody in Marion County that needs to be helped without the government having to do it.
I agree with you. I don't necessarily agree with equating the welfare system to slavery. I mean, that's, to me, we've had these discussions.
We've had these discussions.
This is a little far-fetched for me, but, I don't like it when people are dependent on the government for what they get. But I've also seen certain situations where, there's a government disability, for people that have got an issue where they can't work or can't do things. And I've seen where food stamps can play a big part in feeding a family.
Certainly.
There's no reason why anybody in this country should go hungry.
No.
It just doesn't make any sense to me.
With the election now cycled down to runoffs, here's my problem with the runoffs. We had 26% voter turnout. 1 in 4 turned out, which is great. It's the highest voter turnout in a off-election cycle year that the city's ever seen. The runoff, if they get 5%, I'll be amazed.
If 2,500 people vote, it'll be a miracle.
And that's about 4 or 5%.
Yeah, be a miracle.
It really would be.
Yeah.
To me, it would, and that then takes it back to a few people are deciding for 32,000 registered voters.
Now, if this particular runoff had been for the mayoral race,
Been a lot different.
that'd have been a whole different.
If the mayoral race was part of the runoff, there'd be a large contingent show up.
We have a very unusual charter here. It's not like the rest of the cities and around this country
Nope.
where, there's a lot of strong mayor systems where they think, well, the mayor makes the rules.
Right.
That's-
We have a weak mayor
Yeah,
system.
we have a weak mayor system.
We have a council and administrator charter, not a mayor charter.
That's right. And, people say the mayor's running for election. My God, we got to get out and vote. But really, the council members make the important decisions when it comes to the city of Ocala.
Somebody says, yeah, but the mayor's got veto power. My experience in the time that I've lived here, 20 years that I've been in this area,
Over ordinances.
over ordinances, right. In my experience, that veto power over ordinances very seldom has any weight. Because usually when council passes something, there's been a couple times it's been 3-2, but most of the time it's 4-1 or 5-0. So even if the mayor vetoes it, council just brings it back up on the agenda, votes on it again, and it goes anyway. So when people say, oh, the mayor has veto power, the mayor's biggest requirement is overseeing the civilian oversight of the police department.
Yeah, that's very, very important. And of course, he's still the visual public figure for the city.
Oh, yeah, shaking hands, kissing babies.
When the president flies into town, the mayor's going to be there.
100%.
And there's really nobody that does and has done a better job than that than Kent Quinn.
He's been, and we've had a storied list of mayors.
Oh yeah.
But Kent was. It's almost like he walked out of central casting for this job.
He's done a really good job.
I mean, if Hollywood was going to cast a mayor, it would send somebody that looks like Kent Quinn. Somebody that has a presence, looks the part, says the right things, has a good relationship with the police department that he's overseeing. I think the voters got this right yesterday. I think that the reasoning behind how they got it right, though, still might think is a little suspect, because I think some people went to the voting booths and didn't vote for Kent Gwynn because they thought he was the better candidate, or that how his ideas of running the city were a better thing. I think some people went to the vote and just voted against that damn Islam person, and that's wrong. If you do that, that's wrong, and I think some people did that yesterday.
Or vice versa, some people voted against Kent Gwynn
because he was in the Klan, supposedly.
Yeah. I mean, which is
touche.
Let me speak up for my friend who I've known all my life.
He's the farthest from a Klan member.
Yeah, he's the farthest.
Look, I lived in South Georgia for a long time.
We're all aware of that.
I know Klan members. It's just part of life in South Georgia. You know Klan members, because it's still, people think the Klan's still there. It's just not walking down Main Street anymore. So I know Klan members. Kent Gwynn ain't one of them.
No, I
You
think,
ain't met Klan members.
yeah. The only people who say that probably have never met one. But,
No, exactly.
And Kent Gwynn does not qualify.
No, not even close.
He's a good guy. He's done a good job for the city. He gets passionate. Now he'll jump out ahead of something on you.
Has he said things before that were people went, ooh, yeah, but who hasn't?
Well, sure. I mean, if you're in the job, you're going to say something.
There's gonna be gaffes.
You're going to say something or do something. Are you going to make a wrong vote or a vote that you? The job is not a black and white job.
No,
As a city councilman, it is a gray job. You can
but everybody wants black and white answers.
Of course, of course, and they want you to vote the way they want you to vote, or they're going to vote against you.
Right.
But there's a lot of, not a lot, but there were several land use situations that there was a lot of gray area in, and I voted a certain way because after talking with legal, at the end result, I felt like that. The people that I voted a certain way they were gonna sue the city and they were gonna force the issue and it's gonna cost us a lot of money.
And probably had a pretty good case.
Absolutely. You can't just deny it because you just want to deny it.
Right.
There's got to be some.
There comes a time when people that own land, they have rights too. They have the ability to try to maximize their investment on that land.
Right.
And if you vote everything down, you're going to face some lawsuits.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not. Sue Mosley brought this point up, and we're going to take a break. We'll stick here with John McCloud for another 15 minutes or so. But Sue Mosley brought this up, and I want you to talk to it afterwards. After we come back from break, let's say Jay Musley doesn't win. You got Irie Bethea. He's been on council for a year. Mm-hmm. You got Jim Hilty, who's been on council, so he knows what to expect.
Mm-hmm.
You got 3 council members that have never been on city council before. And I know somebody who understands that because when you went on council, even though you'd been on advisory boards, you'd been on everything, you'd never been a city councilman. When we come back from break, I want to talk about the learning curve because Sue Mosley brought it up. She goes, people think they're going to get in there and they're going to do this and do this and do this, and then they find out, well, legally we can't do that. Well, here's why. You have to learn on the job. We'll talk about that next. We'll talk with former city councilman John McCloud. You're listening to Ocala Talks on 1370 AM, 96.3 FM. This is WOCA, The Source.